If you've just watched or are about to watch the Netflix documentary on Amy Lynn Bradley, you might be left thinking this was just a tragic accident, that maybe Amy fell aboard, maybe she drowned. But when we asked ChatGPT to look at all the facts and to calculate the odds that Amy accidentally drowned, the answer, roughly 30%, meaning there's a 70% chance she didn't. This is the story of a 23-year-old woman who vanished from a cruise ship in 1998. No body, no witnesses, but maybe some very disturbing clues. The disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley, what Netflix didn't tell you. Amy Lynn Bradley was born in Petersburg, Virginia on May 12, 1974. By 1998, she was a 23-year-old Longwood University graduate, an athletic, strong swimmer and former lifeguard, now preparing to start a new job in computer consulting. Amy joined her parents, Ron and Ivor, and her younger brother, Brad, on a celebratory 7-day Caribbean cruise aboard Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas, departing March 21, 1998, from Puerto Rico. 2 days after the ship departed, Amy vanished, and according to AI, it likely wasn't an accident. To put things into perspective, overboard incidents on cruise ships, well, they make headline news, but statistically, they're almost unheard of. Between 2009 and 2019, just 212 people fell overboard out of hundreds of millions of passengers. That's roughly 20 to 25 incidents per year globally, meaning about 1 in 1.3 million passengers ends up overboard. Out of all those overboard incidents, how many involved a 23-year-old strong swimmer who worked as a lifeguard and was also afraid of heights? The week-long cruise through the Caribbean was the Bradley family's first major vacation in years. For Amy, it was a celebration. She had just graduated from college and had a promising new job lined up back home in Virginia. Still, Amy had some reservations about the trip. She wasn't a big fan of the open water, and she had a known fear of heights. She wasn't the kind of person to lean over railings or take unnecessary risks. That first day, she did what most 23-year-olds would do: soaked up the sun, spent time with her family, took photos, and explored the ship. Her parents later said that from the moment she boarded the ship, she always kept her room key and her cigarettes with her, even for quick walks around the deck. It wasn't just habit, it was about control, safety. It's a detail that might seem meaningless until you realize the morning she disappeared, both were left behind. Amy Lynn Bradley never went anywhere without them, unless she had no other choice. She had dinner with her family that night, dressed nicely, chatted about the upcoming ports. Everything felt light, normal. But looking back, her family would remember that dinner as the moment before their lives changed forever. The morning of March 22nd, 1998, dawned bright and calm aboard the Rhapsody of the Seas. Amy and her family began the day like any other. She spent much of the day on deck, reading, sunbathing, and exploring the ship with her brother Brad. She seemed relaxed, but careful, aware of her surroundings. That afternoon, she stayed close to her family and avoided some parts of the ship where she'd already begun feeling uneasy. According to a 2005 interview with Dr. Phil, Amy's parents said that she was particularly wary near the crew quarters. As night fell, the atmosphere aboard the ship shifted. The crowd gathered for the Caribbean night party in the ship's nightclub, a lively gathering of music, dancing, and celebration. Amy was seen dancing with members of the ship's band, Blue Orchid, including their bassist, Alistair "Yellow" Douglas. Her brother Brad joined her, but left a couple of hours later, with Amy shortly following suit. According to the ship's computerized door lock system, her brother returned around 3:35 a.m. and Amy returned just 5 minutes later. She then spent some time on the balcony talking with Brad. Between 5:15 and 5:30 a.m., their father Ron saw Amy sleeping on a lounge chair, seemingly enjoying the fresh air. By 6 a.m., when Ron woke up, he realized she had vanished. During that same window of time, the ship was quietly approaching the port of Willemstad, Curacao, just off the coast. He quietly opened the door to Amy's cabin. Her bed was untouched, her shoes gone, her cigarettes and lighter left behind. Immediately, something felt wrong. Amy always kept her cigarettes with her, always, and she had a fear of heights. Her mother said she wouldn't even go near the balcony railing without someone by her side. Ron alerted the rest of the family. Within minutes, they began searching the ship themselves, checking stairwells, hallways, lounges, restrooms. They pleaded with the ship's crew to make an announcement over the intercom. Just say Amy's name. Ask her to check in, but the crew refused, saying it was too early and it might disturb other passengers. Instead of locking the ship down, Royal Caribbean allowed breakfast to continue, music to play, and passengers to move freely. The ship docked shortly thereafter. It wouldn't be until after 8 a.m. that authorities were officially notified, and an announcement was finally made more than 2 hours after Amy was discovered missing.
They wasted time, precious time. They should have made that announcement right away, locked those doors.
By the time security began searching, hundreds of passengers had already disembarked, any one of them potentially the last person to see Amy alive or worse. As passengers were disembarking, Ronald Bradley pushed the crew to take Amy's disappearance more seriously and work with the authorities. Crew security briefly questioned Alistair Yellow Douglas, likely because several guests and crew had seen him with Amy the night before, but the inquiry was short-lived and led nowhere. Assuming she may have fallen or jumped overboard, search teams scoured the ocean for signs of a body, but there was no splash reported, no alarm triggered, and no clear explanation for how Amy could have accidentally vanished without a trace. Naval divers searched the waters near the ship. Planes circled the coastline, but in calm Caribbean waters, just yards from shore, nothing ever turned up. Not a single trace of Amy Lynn Bradley, not even a single piece of clothing. And that's not just unusual. Statistically, it's almost unheard of. So ask yourself, why would someone like that, sober, cautious, and afraid of heights, climb over a cruise ship balcony alone in the dark? And if she had fallen, why did nobody notice? No alert, no body. Local authorities questioned crew members, combed through security footage, but curiously, not all footage was turned over to the FBI, and some of it had already been overwritten. For nearly a week, Amy's parents stayed in Curacao, searching streets, putting up posters, pleading for information. Meanwhile, their fellow cruise passengers had already returned home, their vacations over, and lives resumed. But while the sea turned up nothing, it was a tip on land that deepened the mystery. In the early days following her disappearance, a taxi driver came forward in Curacao. He claimed a woman matching Amy's description, with green eyes and short brown hair, approached him in a panic, asking where the nearest phone was.
She looked scared. She didn't seem like a tourist.
The FBI began treating the case as a possible abduction rather than an accident. They also questioned the band's bassist, Yellow, who had already been interviewed by the ship's security team on the morning of Amy's disappearance and was identified by several witnesses as the last person seen with her. Despite mounting suspicion, investigators were unable to definitively link him to the case. Without concrete evidence, suspects, or cooperation from key crew staff, the trail gradually went cold. In missing person cases, the first 48 hours are critical. For Amy, they slipped away while passengers walked freely off the ship. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, no body, no CCTV evidence, and no confirmed accident report emerged, leaving the disappearance a haunting mystery. Her family began to believe something far darker had happened. Just when it seemed the case had gone cold, the sightings began. Unconfirmed sightings from the Caribbean to South America, describing a woman who looked just like Amy, and in every case, she seemed trapped. Later that same year, just 5 months after Amy had vanished, a Canadian computer engineer vacationing in Curacao reported seeing a woman walking along the beach with 2 men. She had distinctive tattoos, a Tasmanian devil and a gecko, just like Amy. But what struck him most was her expression.
She kept trying to get my attention. It looked like she wanted to say something, but the 2 men with her wouldn't let her get close.
The witness then lost sight of her near a cafe. The family begged the FBI to follow up, but by the time authorities arrived, the trail had gone cold. A year later, in 1999, an American Navy petty officer claimed a woman in a Barbados brothel grabbed him and said, "My name is Amy Bradley, please help me." She claimed she was being held against her will, but before the serviceman could act, she was pulled away by guards. He claimed that she said her name clearly. It wasn't casual. She was scared. The sailor didn't immediately report the incident because he feared that doing so would jeopardize his military career. Instead, he waited until after he retired and reported the sighting after seeing a picture of a woman who resembled Amy in a magazine. The tip made it to the FBI and even aired on America's Most Wanted. But again, no trace. In 2005, a witness named Judy Mora claimed to have seen Amy in the department store restroom in Barbados. The woman was accompanied by 3 men, looked terrified, and had the same distinctive tattoos as Amy. The men appeared to have a threatening hold over her. Mora claimed that she had a brief exchange with the woman. After the men exited the restroom, during this exchange she pleaded, "I'm Amy, I'm from Virginia." Shortly after, the men re-entered and dragged her away. Investigators created composite sketches of the men based on Mora's descriptions of their appearances, but it brought them no closer to finding Amy. Multiple sightings, same woman, same tattoos, same fear. Each time in hotspots renowned for commercial exploitation in the sex trade. Each time the woman claimed to be Amy. These tattoos made her easy to identify and hard to mistake, and yet no sighting was ever followed up fast enough to lead to a rescue. For Amy's family, each report brought new hope and new trauma. A chance she was alive. A nightmare that she might be suffering. Knowing she might be out there, needing help, and we couldn't get to her. That's the hardest part. Today, Amy would be in her 50s, but the sightings raised the most haunting question of all. Not whether she drowned, but whether she was taken. Let's start with the drowning theory. According to the Cruise Lines International Association, the odds of a healthy adult accidentally falling overboard from a cruise ship are about 1 in 1.3 million passengers per day. Amy was a 23-year-old trained lifeguard, afraid of heights, and the ship's railings were 3.5 feet high. And if she had fallen, why wasn't there a splash, an alert, or debris? According to ChatGPT, the probability of this occurring is just between 10 to 15%. Did she intentionally jump off the ship? Highly unlikely. She was excited about a new job, had just finished college, and was on a family vacation. The FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit found no psychological red flags. Did she run away? Unlikely. Amy had no passport and left behind her shoes, cigarettes, and room key, things she carried habitually. And she was extremely close to her family. ChatGPT puts this probability at less than 5%. Now consider this. In the 1990s and early 2000s, the Caribbean was an emerging hub for commercial exploitation in the sex trade, with organized crime targeting tourists and young women. Multiple witness sightings, all describing Amy, all in known trafficking zones. In several cases, the woman identified herself as Amy Bradley and asked for help. Add to this, the cruise line Royal Caribbean never preserved security footage, didn't properly lock down the ship after the disappearance, and refused to hand over some internal logs. Unsurprisingly, and with all factors taken into consideration, ChatGPT gives this scenario about a 70% likelihood of having occurred. We started this journey with a simple question, one that no investigation ever seemed to answer directly. 70%! That's not a fringe theory. That's a data-informed possibility, backed by patterns, psychology, behavior, evidence, and silence, where there should have been answers. Artificial intelligence isn't perfect, but it doesn't get tired. It doesn't protect institutions, and it doesn't shy away from uncomfortable possibilities. As tools like ChatGPT evolve, so do our abilities to reassess long, cold cases, to challenge old assumptions, to question the narrative we were told. We may never know exactly what happened to Amy Lynn Bradley, But maybe the question now isn't what happened. Maybe the question is, what do you believe now?